Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here in New York. I really appreciate being asked to join this group and talk to you a little bit about my experiences during the pandemic. And just as a little background, I am a hospitality recruiter. I've had my own company for about 10 years now. I come from the hotel business. I had a long career in sales and marketing, and starting with Four Seasons in Toronto. And I was with them for about 12, 13 years in about 4 different locations as director of sales and marketing, starting in Toronto. And then I joined the famous Watergate Hotel for a couple of years, came back and did some work with Millennium Hotels when they were converting 13 Regal properties into Millennium properties. I've done my own consulting internationally, and then had the fortune to join the Carlisle, move back to New York, the Carlisle Hotel, and then became corporate director of sales and marketing for Morgan's Hotel Group. So, and then with the usual round of layoffs that happen in companies, I started in recruiting, hospitality recruiting, and everybody thought, including myself, that, oh, it'll just be a short-term gig until this perfect job comes over across my desk and I'll just grab it and get back into the corporate world. Well, 10 years marches on, and I am now, I continue to love what I do, and what recruiting does is offer me the ability to sell, which was my first love, create jobs for people, get people jobs, and also really do some development with regards to new clients and career pathing. So it's a wonderful, wonderful job, company that I have that I love. But like the rest of you, it's been severely impacted over the last year. So I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit. I'm fine if you want to jump in and ask a question, and just unmute. I mean, Mike, if you feel differently, then obviously I'll bow to you. But if you want to make it a little interactive and jump in with a question, or we'll obviously make time for your questions at the end.
Interactive is great. I was just asking people to mute in case there was any background noise when they weren't talking.
Totally.
And then
Totally.
do you need to share anything on the screen?
No, I'm just going to yammer on and speak to some experience that I've had. You will find that my presentation will focus a lot on sales, and if there are any operations folks in this group, I think it's applicable to you. Or if you want to jump in and say, I don't see how, as a director of front office, this applies to me, and I'm happy to go through that. I started recruiting mostly salespeople, but I do all levels of operations, so I'm pretty fluent in most levels of positions within hotels. I do mostly hotels. I've done some food and beverage. I'm not as well versed in the culinary side. And what I also love doing is when I have a client who wants a hospitality focused person, and we'll talk about that a little bit as some of us repurpose ourselves during the pandemic. Anybody have anything to say before we start a little bit? Okay, I'm going to try not to drop you, sorry. Obviously, I don't have to tell you this, the impact of the pandemic on our industry has been devastating. And quite frankly, we're one of the hardest hit industries. We've lost probably almost 10 million jobs in the last year, which is incredible. If you think about it, US travel and tourism was responsible for 1 in 10 jobs just the year before, 33 million internationally. So it was generating 1 in all 4 jobs. So obviously the pandemic has just torn us apart. Consequently, and again, I don't have to tell you this, and I'd love to hear your experiences. It's made a dramatic change in hiring and job hunting. Hospitality job seekers are looking for new roles. You're in an incredibly competitive environment, and hiring managers are being deluged with resumes for the diminished roles they have. It's interesting talking to some of my clients, the hiring managers, whether they're directors of human resources or VPs of operations looking for, they think it's going to be an easy environment, and they are completely bowled over by how difficult it is. They said, oh, we'll have the pick of the litter. There's so many people looking for jobs. And it's, yes, there are so many people looking for jobs, but they're getting so many resumes from people who have, quite frankly, no qualifications for the jobs that are being posted. And just, so what I would like to do today is to talk to you a little bit about how you cut through the clutter, pretty much, and how you rise to the top, and how you present yourself in the best way possible so you can be at the forefront of the hiring manager's mind. It's definitely impacted my business. Quite frankly, I thought in March, oh my God, like you, this will be a couple of months and we'll get through this. And as time marched on, a couple of months later, in March, summer rolled in, the furloughs were happening. And what, I saw so many times, and I have a very large network on LinkedIn for the reasons I'll touch on later, but it was just incredible to see people being furloughed and then furloughed again, and then brought it back and then furloughed again, because just nobody was understanding what was going on with their markets. And then, quite frankly, a lot of people just were finally let go. It's quite frankly been quite heartbreaking, because you see so many people who have been in this wonderful business for so long, and they have just had to leave, forced to leave. And I see, but we're incredibly resilient industry, and I've seen so many people reinvent themselves. And so many people have gone into financial institutions and assisted living, senior living industries, which is actually quite frankly a great move. It doesn't pay as well as hospitality, if that's possible, but it's a lot of assisted living companies like hospitality people, because some of them don't realize this, but they are in the business of hospitality. And many are just plain retiring. And that in itself is, when you have somebody who has been in the business working for one company for 20 years, they just would find it very difficult to transfer to another company. And it's not just been the lower performing people that have lost their jobs, but star performers in companies, Hyatt, Four Seasons, Hilton, you know this, are losing their jobs, not for performance, but just because it's a matter of cutting budget.
Yes.
So at this point, hi, somebody want to mute their microphone there? So I've started this.
Well, I was wondering.
All right, could you mute?
Thank you, Tara. So at the time of at this point, I'm thrilled to say that my business is coming back to a certain extent, which is, I think, a reflection of the industry, which is awesome. It's a completely different landscape. It's a different situation for me as it is for you. As I said, hiring managers are being deluged with responses, and quite frankly, HR departments are being cut too, right? So they're doing more, as you all are, for those of you still working. Everybody's doing more for less. So, resume gaps, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and expectations with regards to salaries are looking a lot different now. And a couple of searches that I've done in the last 2 months, it's quite frankly, some of my clients think they can get a lot more talent for less money. And yes, that's true. But I do caution them that as things improve, those, let's call it $200,000 GM who they got for $150,000 is going to jump when they can get back to a similar salary level. I'm not seeing much of a pattern. I mean, a lot of people have taken pay cuts. And one situation I had, and you might want to keep this in mind if this is your situation, is I had a candidate who had taken a 30% pay cut for the pandemic, and I actually hired him for a client of mine, and they hired him at the reduced salary with the guarantee of going back to his natural level, because they had to do that, because as soon as this candidate found another job where he was going to get compensated for what he was worth in the market, he would leave, and it would be a short-term employee. Interviews are looking a lot different. You know, I have clients who are doing Zoom interviews, or ones that are doing ones in person. You have to wear a mask, and for our industry, that depends so much on personality and communicating your talent through how you interact. To have, you know, in either a situation like this or having to communicate with your eyes only with a mask, it's really a challenge. So I wanted to talk about you, and I don't know what your situations are, so I'm going to be probably talking to you mostly as somebody who is either out of work and looking, or considering making a change. And for those of you who have jobs now, I know it's very difficult to contemplate making a change because it's such a different environment. But if it's an opportunity that makes sense, I would take it if you could. And as a recruiter, I'm actively recruiting, so I'm talking to people who have jobs, but I am finding people a little more hesitant. But I do think that if you do have an opportunity that makes sense for you in a career, take it. So as somebody who's been in hospitality all your life, this is maybe the first time you're looking for a job. You've progressed with promotions and been recruited into senior roles. What I'm hearing a lot is I haven't updated my resume in years. If you're looking for a job, this is now your job. And your job, I know it's demoralizing. I know it's difficult to keep up energy. I know I've had challenges keeping up my energy and any positive feeling that I could possibly have over the last year. But now is not the time to be subtle. And now is not the time to not put your best foot forward and promote yourself as your brand. Your job now is to find an amazing role, and that has to be your full focus. Your LinkedIn profile is your online resume, and many people that I know who are looking for work have not put. I just saw one just literally 15 minutes ago. Who I know is not working, have not put an end date on their resume. I truly suggest that I know it's difficult because it makes it real that you have not worked since April 2020, but it helps people understand that you're ready to work. And it's like losing your job after 9/11 or the latest stock market crash. People understand. If I look at a resume or I look at a LinkedIn profile and they have not been working since March 2020, it's a pretty good chance that it was due to cutbacks due to COVID. It's an interesting environment as well, because, you know, normally when somebody is not working, there's some sort of suspect that maybe that was a performance reason. It's harder to navigate that now to really understand how people lost their jobs. But I urge you, do not hesitate to put an end date on there. It doesn't reflect on you. This is not your fault. This has impacted so many people, but it helps people understand that you're ready to work. We'll go into detail on the LinkedIn profile, but I think there's some things that you can say on your LinkedIn profile that says you're ready and willing to work. There is the banner. I personally love it. I think it's a great idea. Be overt, you're in sales, go for it. So you could say things like, take off your company name. So if you say group sales manager with Hyatt, I can't even think of something like Hyatt San Francisco. If you're no longer there, or even if you're no longer there, take it off. So And I know it's hard to take away your company identity, but so if I would put, talented luxury hotel group sales manager, actively looking for an opportunity in Dallas. Passionate leader, strong business travel professional, looking for a new hotel sales position in Southern California. Highly experienced revenue manager with excellent background in the Bay Area, looking for a new role. Pepper your LinkedIn, and I'll talk about this a lot, with keywords. Keyword searches is the way that people get to find you. It's like search engine optimization for yourself. So make sure if you're in revenue, if you're in San Francisco, if you're a group sales manager, get all those in there as much as possible. Your new brand is you, and now is the time to really increase your exposure, your marketing yourself. This could be the biggest sales challenge of your career. As I said, I use LinkedIn a lot, and I'm always looking for great candidates for my clients using the keywords that they give me. I use city search a lot, and I use keywords a lot. So, so if you're a great group sales manager in tech in San Francisco, and you don't use the word group and technology in your profile, I will not find you. Well, I might, but it will be a long time from now, and I'll find a lot of people in front of you. So remember, if you're a luxury travel industry salesperson with experience in the Caribbean, then those are the keywords you want to do. So if I'm looking for a luxury, and I'll put this in, luxury travel industry person, Caribbean, you want to have as many of those words peppered within your LinkedIn as profile. And there's a lot of opportunities to do it. So I'd like to start at the top of the LinkedIn page. If anybody wants to follow, mine's not perfect, but if you want to follow along sort of the format, you can, or look at your own and figure out, even as we talking through, where you could improve it. And then before I forget, I have been doing a lot of LinkedIn profile consulting pro bono. And I'd like to throw it out there that if you want to connect with me and you want to start doing some work on your LinkedIn profile, and you want me to take a look at it and give you back the feedback, please contact me. I'm happy to do it. You'll also find a lot of articles on my website and on my LinkedIn page, articles about just what we're going to talk about now. So we start at the top of your LinkedIn profile. You have a picture and you have the background banner page. This needs to be a very professional headshot. It does not need to be studio done though. I mean, leaning into half a person's other face next to you, in a party situation. That's not it. You don't want a headshot with your suit and tie and looking very camera lit. But I think that if it's something that really reflects your personality. I remember a long time ago, I was looking for a sales manager, for a junior sales manager for a lifestyle hotel in Soho here in New York. And I came across this young woman at a very big brand box, and she had that kind of hipster look about her in her picture. And I'm like, I would suggest that maybe this young woman maybe was miscast in her very corporate role. She's expressing this personality, and she is now a director of sales 10 years later of a major lifestyle hotel here in New York, because she reflected her personality. She reflected the image that she was aspiring to for her career. I'm not suggesting if you're working for Hyatt, you expose all your tats, but I think that it really needs to be a professional look, but also reflect your personality and be approachable. There's also a background on LinkedIn, which is behind the headshot. I see a lot of people use these for logos of their hotels or pictures of trade shows. Again, switch it out, make it look like you spent some effort on it. Don't make it, make it fairly down the middle as far as not being too controversial, but make it up reflective of your personality. So underneath your photo, and this is probably, people go picture, look at your picture, look at the little tagline underneath. This is a very quick, concise way to talk about your expertise. And again, if you want to say, you don't put the name of your company on there, particularly if you're not working there, I would suggest, but it's a real quick snapshot of who you are. Group sales manager with 5 years of experience in lifestyle hotels. Boom. It's not a whole laundry list. This is not the way you put a lot of detail, but it's a quick snapshot of who you are. So somebody looks at your picture, goes, oh, a group sales manager with the length of time that I want and has experience in lifestyle hotels. Boom. And they'll look a little further. If you're looking for a new opportunity, again, I would put it here. This is where you put it. And there's one thing about, there's a way to put your city location. I think, and I would recommend that if you live in, pick a place, I don't know, Ann Arbor, and the bigger place where you want to, where that you can commute to, and I apologize for my geography, as this is way off. Then here's another one, San Francisco. If you live in Tiburon, don't put Tiburon, put San Francisco, because while it will give you a bigger, wider net, because if you put the San Francisco Bay Area in LinkedIn, it will probably pull Tiburon people, but it might not. So again, don't put where you live, put where the biggest metropolitan area is, where you are. So connections. This is the time to start working to building your network. Not only do you have a better reach and you can communicate with more people, but it exponentially increases your exposure. So this is my business. This is what I do. So I have 15,000 first connections on LinkedIn. That allows me to be connected to several million more people through second connections. So I have the ability to really get my message out. When I do posts, when I do articles, a lot more people see it. This is the time to increase your network. And I would suggest that you don't do it with clients, because I know it was probably something you used for sales. But now it's time to do it for colleagues and people in the industry. And if you went on the invitation, what I would suggest you put a little bit of a note saying, hi, I just wanted to connect with you, Joe. I see we have a lot of connections in common. People who, if you put a note on the invitation, the chances are pretty good, are much better that it'll get responded to and accepted. So below I'm sort of going layer by layer here. There's an about section after this. This is your opportunity to briefly discuss your career. Remember to add again in the keywords that are important to your expertise, such as geographic experience, industry segments you specialize in, leadership experience, key accomplishments. You don't need to add tech skills or personal information. Probably best to steer away from that anyway. Education or any editorial comments. I think it's hard to articulate this, but the more kind of middle of the road you can appear, the less likely you are to annoy somebody who potentially could have a job for you. And if it's not related to your job, then I really would steer away from it. So here's one I wrote for somebody about who's an event sales manager. Proven New York City, so location, director of event sales with extensive background in lifestyle hospitality. So it says what segment they're in. Adept at coordinating multiple events simultaneously and growing event revenue. Strong history of client development and retention, vendor management, and team leadership. Event clientele across corporate and social markets with clients in tech, fashion, media, and finance. Has generated up to $10 million a year. So we've got you've touched every point there about what industries, what kind of clients, what type of revenue did. You've got the leadership, you know about employee retention. I mean, I've literally had clients who have said, find me somebody who is really good at employee retention. I don't necessarily put that in, but if it's in there, I'll find you. So about the section, again, succinct. If you're wanting to people, what you're doing is you're drawing people down to look at the rest of your LinkedIn profile. So it's shorter, getting longer, getting longer. Your experience progression is super important. And so many people do not flesh this out. And I urge you, this is the time to do it. I see this beautiful, like well-written, very detailed resume, and then there's no information on the LinkedIn. It's so frustrating. And it really does not do yourself a service by just really being sketchy with it. So, so make sure the dates are correct. I literally lost a candidate who made a mistake. It's a little bit sketchy, but did not do the right dates on their LinkedIn, and it became a kind of a concern for the client, and they had some really good other candidates, and they just moved on because they were a little suspect of maybe he was not being completely upfront. So always be very careful with your dates and your start and your end dates, that they match up. If you've been in one organization for a number of positions, this is really great because it shows your progression within one company. So if you've been in one company for 5 years and you've gone from sales manager to director of group sales to director of group sales, director of sales, and it's all been with Crescent Hotels, then put that in as Crescent Hotels 2015 to 2020, and then show the progression, because it really shows the value that you've had to the organization. Never leave out positions, and try and explain. If you get to the interview stage, you'll be able to explain any gaps you have. I mean, this doesn't apply to what we talked about before about having an end date for March 2020, but don't leave anything out. It just draws suspicion as to what else, and then they'll just keep digging and digging and digging, and then they can't be bothered anymore, and they'll go to the next candidate. It will completely affect your integrity, and I've had this happen a couple of times, fortunately not too many times, where it does, people get a little suspect. In the position detail, this is an opportunity to really just succinctly describe your role. Again, I know I'm being repetitive, but add in as many keywords as possible. And I'm going to use it as sales position as an example. As director of group sales, I managed a team of 3 sellers for this 300-room hotel, luxury hotel with 15,000 square feet of event space. I sold key group accounts to the Northeast market, specializing in finance, technology, and fashion. Our team consistently exceeded our annual group goal of $10 million by 15%. That literally tells me you have leadership experience, you have a specific market segment that you're good at, and quite frankly, as director of group sales, and I see this background, if I've got a group sales manager position, or I have a director of sales position for a small group driven hotel, then I might think about talking to you, because you've really told me exactly the revenue responsibilities you've had, how many people you led, and that you sold during your tenure, and these were your market segments and geographically where you were. You do not need to add, and I know it's nice to be able to add as many responsibilities in there as possible. If you're a director of sales, you do not need to say, I wrote the marketing plan, or I attended revenue meetings, or I did forecasting. Those are part of your job. It really takes up space if you put in things that are really not really aren't necessary, because that's what you do anyway. You could always add detail on your property, which is really great, by adding a website. I see a lot of people describing their properties and saying, I mean, it's great because it's a sales tool for clients, right? But if you're looking for a job, now is the time to talk about you, and unfortunately not your property. It's a really good time now to gather your recommendations. There's a section in there where they talk, your clients and your colleagues and your bosses can write references. They're just quick snippets of references. Get as many as you can, because they look great, and make them as prestigious as possible, because they're really valuable right now. past leaders, clients, people that worked with you, not so much, but people who can attest to your leadership skills or your ability to arrange, host an event is super important. On LinkedIn also, you can put your resume and make sure it's current. And you can put your contact information. And there's a section right now on LinkedIn that talks about that you're open to job opportunities. I beg of you, put your contact information in there. I can't tell you how many times I see somebody who's looking for work and they're a good fit. I have no phone number and I have no email. So if you post your resume, I can understand why you might be a little concerned about that. I personally never send resumes to clients unless I have a full conversation with a candidate. You might not want your resume floating around there. I get it, but you've got to make sure that they have. If you're my second connection and I want to talk to you as a candidate and you don't put your contact information somewhere on there, I only see your contact information if you're first connection. So make sure it's available to me somewhere else. And make sure it's current, because if it's your business email and you're no longer there, I'm stuck. So how's our time? Is our time okay? Good. Okay. So now you've found a posted open position, and if you apply online, you can pretty much guarantee, particularly with a big company, not a little bitty one, but a big company, they're gonna scan your resume with bots. And that's going to say, it's going to run through your resume and it's going to try and figure out if you have the qualifications. The only way they can find it, the bot will find you and find it if you have the qualifications, if you've read the job description and assuming you must have these qualifications, you don't pepper them in if you don't have them, because that's just not okay. But if you again, your keywords should be in your resume so that the bot can pick up that you've got the group experience Northeast they're looking for. And so if you're invited to do a cover letter, and Mike and I have gone around about this, about cover letters, if you do want to do a cover letter, again, put the keywords in your cover letter, because that'll again pass through to the interview stage, hopefully. You can also assume, and this is an interesting time, if you are seriously considered to be a candidate, you can pretty much guarantee that the hiring manager or their boss or somebody is going to look at all your social media. I do it all the time. So obviously your LinkedIn, but also your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter. Again, like I said before, you've got to clean it up. If it's going to be controversial in any way, it's really not the time, because I've had candidates who have lost jobs because they appeared to be something. I know this is a really, really touchy subject, but they didn't want the party girl that was all over the Instagram. They just didn't. So I'm not saying that you change who you are, but it's probably best to be as cleaned up about this stuff as possible, because now they're going to look at it. That's just part of the interview process. If you have somebody in your network that belongs to or works for this company, please use your contacts. I'm sure you could probably know somebody that knows somebody that works for this company. It will help you cut through the clutter. It'll help your resume get further up on the top of the pile. Now is the time also to network up a storm. If if a friend has got a great job, then find out how they did it. How did they do it? Like, who did they talk to? A wonderful example of a candidate, actually, a former candidate in DC, who was devastated, as so many of us were. It was so down and so down. I'm like, Javier, you've got to get on LinkedIn and start posting and start making, start saying things and making observations and talking about the industry and really elevate your profile. And I'm so thrilled, because he got a job as a director of sales in Dallas. Yes, he had to move, but his profile was so out there that somebody reached out to him, because he's obviously was a type of person they want. And I'm just thrilled for him. If you have left the industry and you want to return, there's a part where when you build your LinkedIn that talks about industry. And I've seen this a couple of times. It's now concerning me. If you want to get back into hospitality, but you've gone into medical devices, if you change your industry code to medical devices, I will not be able to find you. Because if I'm doing a search and the search fields has all the industries, if I pick hospitality, I won't find you. So if you want to get back, my suggestion would be, I mean, if you're selling medical devices and you want to be out there with your clients, obviously you're going to have to. But if you can leave it at hospitality because you really want to get back, I would suggest you leave it there. So, I mean, to wrap up, it's been super difficult. For our industry right now. One thing I would keep an eye out, look out for is there's a lot of distressed properties and a lot of properties that are closing. Some of my clients with a lot of money are picking up these properties. So I'd keep an eye on that. Be really mindful of what's in the industry papers. I would be reading those like all the time, as well as obviously looking at the feeds on LinkedIn and trying to figure out what's going on. But keep an eye on these. They've got some job opportunities. If I use my recruiting business as a barometer for what's coming on, we're coming back. I mean, it's so much fun. I'm sad to say that the sales jobs might take a little longer, but the operations positions are coming back, particularly as people are having to staff up super fast if they are either finding a surgeon business, or in one case here in New York with a client, if they're literally added 5 new properties to their Manhattan portfolio because these properties were available and they needed to get people in there. So I think that this is a really good time to market yourself, as I said. I think that it's a wonderful time for companies to find great talent and really great talent. And I would hope that would be you. And if you hopefully I can have helped you to maybe put your best foot forward, that you will have the opportunity to stay in our beautiful business and continue to flourish. Questions from anybody?
First, thank you. That was very helpful. I don't take many notes in life, and I have a whole page and a half of notes. So that's very helpful. I had a question about the contact. When you had mentioned contact, I kind of lost where you would put your contact information.
I don't have it on mine because I'm not looking for a job, fortunately, but there's a place where you can say I'm open. Yeah, there's a part now, I think they might have just added this. The show recruiters you're open to work and control who sees it. And then you get started and there's a free form part that can let you add your contact information. You can also do it with your resume though, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
But I can see it right here.
Question. Hi there. This was great. Thank you so much, Suzanne. And I am going to connect with you after I clean up my LinkedIn a little bit. But I have a question. I am a director of sales level who hasn't worked. And I'm in a position right now where I can take a job that might be just a senior sales manager or a group sales manager. Would you suggest that I take some of those director of sales titles off? Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, are you being offered these jobs?
No, I'm actually in the Bay Area and I'm moving up to wine country.
Nice.
And I'm just in a position right now where I don't necessarily need to have that big director of sales paycheck that we all sort of needed to use and we're climbing with. I would rather find the right fit. And if I don't have a director title, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I was hoping to try and touch on that a little bit, that there's got to be a way to communicate that you don't need the big title, right? Mm-hmm. So I think if you put it, on your tagline or on your about section, you can put interested in groups, a group sales manager or senior group sales manager. Have you relocated or are you relocating?
I'm moving in about 30 days.
So you've left. You know what I would do now? I would change your location.
Mhm.
Are you going to Napa?
No, I'm going up to Healdsburg, Santa Rosa area.
Oh, I love that area.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the biggest city close to there?
Santa Rosa.
And you could commute to Santa Rosa?
Mhm.
So I would put Santa Rosa on your LinkedIn page right now then.
Okay.
Because if people see San Francisco, they'll pass by you.
Right.
And they'll say, oh, we're going to have to relocate her and we're going to have to move her and she might not be here for a week, blah, 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 or several weeks.
Mhm.
I would now.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Lori?
And then Tara had a question in regards to when people ask for connections from you, but they're random people, where do you draw the line of accepting them?
Well, there are some people who try to use it as match.com. That's definitely a line. Trust me. I only accept invitations from people that, quite frankly, would be good for my business. I don't think that if they are a bus driver in Nigeria, it's not really a reason to give them. And I don't usually, quite frankly, between you and I don't usually accept for international requests because they generally want to relocate and they don't have visas. So that said, I think for Tara, you should probably just do people that you feel would be a benefit to you.
Like a lot of the times it's vendors and such that want to connect with me because of my company or anything like that. So it's not necessarily like, sure, I guess it could lead to something in the future, but not necessarily. I don't want to fill all of my connections with, people that I may not.
But then why? But why not?
Okay. Yeah. I think I personally have just only connected if I actually have had a conversation or know them for an actual connection. But so you're saying just open it up.
I wouldn't try at all because if you connected to a person, you're connected to a lot of people, other people because of that person. I mean, yes, if they're going to hound you for business, then but so what?
Can't really hurt. It's just on LinkedIn. So.
I don't want to see anybody's connections under 500 plus, quite frankly, on LinkedIn. And the cutoff is for what they can see is 500 plus connections, right? If you're below there, it's for me, it's a little suspect that you're not well connected. And I think, I'm not saying fill it up and pad it, but I wouldn't be shy. This is not somebody, they can't come and hunt you down at your home,
Yeah, awesome, thank you.
And I had a good experience. I actually started a conversation with a person and I was like, why would you want to connect to me? I don't know you and such. And then she actually indicated that she was looking for a job in a distressed market, and the more people that she could connect to, the more would open doors for her. So sometimes you get a reasonable answer out of folks why they want to connect with you. That's what I found recently, and I've started that particular process of just sending a message to them and asking them why.
There's also that
Jennifer?
you're connected to Joe.
Jennifer, can you mute? I lost control of my host.
I did find my keys, which I would have otherwise lost, so that's good.
Can you mute your, please? Anyway. Yeah, but if you're connected to Joe Smith, and you can also see who he's connected to that you have mutual connections with, and that might help you to make a contact at a company that you want to do business with or something like that. Neil, do you have your hand up?
Hi, yes, I do. So my question is this: I'm currently employed, but we're only part-time now because our hotel is not yet reopened, but is planning on it. But I want to put myself out there for other opportunities. So I want to, make it like a resume. I also don't want my employer to be suspect. Do you have any advice on how to best walk that line, what to do or what not to do?
It's a great question. And I do get that because I don't want to make it look obvious. Like, well, first of all, you're not going to say I'm open to new opportunities. I would just brush it up and make it look as fantastic as possible. And you don't have to allude to any sort of job hunting on there at all. Like, don't do the open to opportunities, obviously. Don't put any sort of indication. I mean, are they going to bring you back?
Well, I'm already working part-time, so yeah, they will.
Okay.
They already have once.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then everything spiked again.
Yeah, I would just take this extra time you have just to brush up your LinkedIn page. Yeah, do people get suspect that you're starting to look? I just think you can keep it clean and professional and not have to worry about that.
And then my other question is, you mentioned some of the other channels, the Facebooks, Instagram.
I have just one caveat to that. There is a function in LinkedIn where you can toggle off the showing people you've made changes to your LinkedIn profile. It's helpful because then you can make changes, but unless somebody specifically goes to your profile, they won't see you've made the changes. Other than if you make changes and you don't toggle that off, your entire web network knows that you're making changes to your resume. Right? There's also another function that I turn off, and that's viewing people's profiles. Like if I look at your profile, Neil, you won't know it, but I did.
Okay.
It's very, very covert. I think that for somebody like you, it might be helpful because if somebody looks at your profile and you want to work with them, then you can go, hey, so what you got, right? It might be helpful.
Okay, and then you mentioned Facebook, Instagram. If I'm not really active on those other platforms, is it important for me to bolster my my profiles on those, or?
It's a very questions today. It depends on what kind of job what do you work for a brand? Do you work for a big box?
I'm a director of sales and marketing for a non-branded hotel. We're just independent, 2 hotels, luxury.
I don't think you need to create a persona on social media if you're not. I mean, if you were 25 and were wanting to work for proper hotels or like the Cliff, yeah, or yes, if you didn't have kind of like that social out there persona, they might be a little concerned about it. But I think for us, it's sort of, well, not as important.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have profile, but I don't use it a lot,
I wouldn't be terribly concerned about it. Just keep it clean.
I mean, that energy would be better funneled towards LinkedIn, I think, in my idea. For me.
Totally. And if you want me to look at your profile after you kind of improve it, and I'll just do a scan and make sure that there's nothing in there I think might be a red flag.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
And I appreciate all your presentation. It was very helpful. Thanks.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that. Rachel, I love this hand feature.
Yeah, it's
Rachel.
really great. Thank you. So my question is for people who are maybe in a smaller organization where they have many hats and are interested in a lot of different avenues for their job, not just one sales director or something like that. What would your advice be to show that you're open to so many different ideas?
That's wonderful. Yes, you walk a line between wanting to be all things to all people and being able to focus on where you want to be. I think, and I have seen people throw the kitchen sink onto their profile just so they're as available to as many people as possible. I think you can still do, give me an example of what you would like to do, Rachel.
Well, I'm really open. I've done marketing, operations, sales, obviously events, and for different size companies. So I've also done allocation and retail. I mean, a lot of different skills. And so I think for me, one of the things I'm struggling with is that some of the larger companies, they want someone very narrowed into a role. And I have a lot of wider range, more surface level, but still deep experience.
Let me look at your, let me look at your profile. I think that you can articulate that by doing it in your, are you a real estate broker?
I am not. If it makes it easier, I did send you a connection on LinkedIn. You might be able to find it that way.
I found you. Okay, so. Okay, all right, I get it. So event production, operations, sales, and marketing professional. Okay, I think that, but I think that you probably added too much. I mean, I think that just, I mean, I've obviously not spent a lot of time on looking at it, but if you're wanting to get back into event management or like social or meeting event management, I would be much more focused on that, because if I'm looking for a sales and marketing person, I wouldn't talk to you. But if I was looking for an events person who had a talent for sales and marketing, I would be more likely to talk to you, because I think it's confusing to put your sales and marketing right at the very top. So it'd be experienced director of events with talent in production and operations would be much more, which would be much more succinct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and in your about section, it's very surface. I think you can be much more succinct in exactly what you want to do. And my same offer goes out to you as it does for Neil. If you want me to take a look at it, but you know, with respect, everybody thinks they're detail-oriented, self-motivated, and creative. I think that if you can be very specific about why you are a sales and marketing professional and why you have a talent in operations and production, but real close. And on your experience detail, there's no, I don't know what you did. I don't know what, when you were at Yerba Buena Center, that I don't know what that job entailed. How much revenue you generated, how many events did you do, did you lead any people, like, that's the kind of thing I'm looking for there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody? I love these hands. Anybody else?
There was one in chat that was from Jeanette. What can you do when a LinkedIn contact you reach out to about a job can't even get their employer to recognize the recommendation in order to get a phone screen?
Not sure what that means.
Jeanette, are you on? All right.
Can you read that again?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to read that again, Mike? And I'll try and figure it out.
All right. What can you do when a LinkedIn contact you reach out to about a job can't get their employer to recognize their recommendation in order to get a phone screening?
I mean, there's a whole bunch in there that I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, if they've reached out to somebody that they don't know, I mean, but they are part of their contact list and they're trying to get a recommendation, but it doesn't, I don't know enough about that. I'm sorry to figure it out.
Sorry.
I mean,
Any other questions?
right?
Yeah, exactly. All righty. Well, I think that, again, I have a whole page of notes. If you want, I can send out your information for the pro bono LinkedIn help, as well as we have a number of folks who probably need some assistance in regards to placement. So during that, hopefully you have some candidates here. I do, one of the questions I have, as other areas are opening up and we're behind the curve here in the Bay Area, seemingly from
Yes, you are.
around the country, where are you seeing like some of these jobs from a sales and event standing really starting to pop, or are they still stagnant even in other parts of the country that are ahead of us?
I'm seeing companies do a lot. Like Sonesta is and Pendry and Montage are hiring up a storm. Wyndham's hiring. It depends on their area. I'm seeing more Southwest for obvious reasons. But I just placed two people in LA, so that sort of I'm not seeing any sales. My clients are not looking to me for sales jobs, and that's what they know me for. So if that makes any sense, I'm just not, I hate to be negative, not give you a positive leave off, but I'm not seeing a lot of sales and events positions right now. Events particularly, man.
All righty. Well, I personally thank you for your time and the information here. Everybody, please reach out, work on your LinkedIn profile. This is a time that to really use this for yourself, is what I'm hearing, and then bolster your personal profile by posting relevant industry information. And also, one thing I've learned is get recommendations. Is that correct?
Totally. Like you clients you have that love you, that you've executed an amazing event. Like have them say, just it doesn't it needs to be a sentence or two. It's like it just can be super simple. You could even write it for them and say, "Is it okay if I do this?" I'm not saying you do that, but you make it just easy for them so that you can boost that up, because references are important.
All righty. And then I will be sending this out via YouTube when I learn to chop it up into parts, or I can post the whole thing. So my abilities are absolutely limited when it comes to technology. But again, I appreciate everybody for being here. We're going to stay around and network and talk if folks want to, but I'm going to stop the recording and